Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jedley. Welcome to Reading with Your Kids. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and so wicked happy that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. You can join us in our mission by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network, and they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Good Pods, Audible, Podcast Addict, CastBox, Player FM, wherever you find your favorite shows. We have a wonderful, wonderful show for you today. First up, Shermaine Perry-Knights is here to celebrate I Move a Lot, and That's Okay. We'll also be talking to Michelle Reeves. She is the author of the Rescue Quest series. Today she is going to be celebrating the latest in that series. It's called Freedom Quest. And as Michelle will tell us, this series is set in the world of Minecraft. We have a really fascinating conversation about it. You don't want to miss it. I'm really excited. The author that we have on today, her book was with me at the Chicago Toy and Game Fair, along with a number of other books that we've celebrated here on the show. And I have to tell you that her book got more attention than all the other books put together. Please welcome to the show the author of I Move a Lot, and That's Okay, Shermaine Perry-Knights. Hey, Shermaine, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. I want to take a moment to thank you and your family for the service you are providing our nation. Shermaine is part of a military family, and I think, thankfully, we've gotten to the habit now where people are thanking when they meet first responders and folks in the military. They are aware of the sacrifices those men and women are making, and we thank them. But I don't think we realize the sacrifices that are made by military families. There's a lot of sacrifices that are made by the spouses and the kids of our military men and women.
That's so true. People typically recognize a service member, which is wonderful, but it's an entire family unit, and depending on how the rest of the family thrives, that does affect the service of the actual service member and the mission overall. So I like to tell people they may not know, but military children will change schools 6 to 9 times between kindergarten and graduation. That is the statistic. Yeah. That's a lot of moving. So I like to say that my books help children adjust to life on the go.
Yeah. Now, I'll be honest with you. When a lot of people came over and they saw the title, I Move a Lot and That's Okay, I think most of them thought, oh, this is a book about a kid with ADHD.
I get that a lot. I'm like, it could be.
Sure, it could. And kids with a lot of energy, they move a lot, and that is okay. We don't need to drug them, but that's another episode.
I agree.
But I don't think I've had the pleasure of performing at a couple of military-based schools, and what amazing schools they are. The kids are wonderful. But I was not aware of that statistic that a typical kid in a military family would change schools six to 9 times. That's a lot.
It is because most people are typically, folks outside the base walls are born and raised with the same group that you went to kindergarten with to high school graduation. I myself, 13 schools in 5 different countries. We moved a lot. And then people ask you the dreaded question of where are you from? Cringe. What do I pick? Do I pick where I was born and then we shipped out 6 weeks later? Or do I pick my favorite place across the world? Do I pick where I was the longest or I feel the most connected to? So that question is like, it just sends off all the fire signals in your brain. Like, well, what do they want to know?
Yeah. Boy, today has been a day, all the interviews I've done so far today, it's like, wow, I never thought of that. And, while I was aware that military families move a lot. I had two cousins who served and retired from the Air Force, and I was aware that they lived in a number of different places. That statistic and that whole what you were just mentioning about where you're from, I don't know what to tell you.
I like to tell people a little bit of me remains in every part of the world I've ever lived or traveled in. So they call us third culture kids because you literally are not just the culture of your mother and your father, the third culture, which is the pieces that you choose to make your own. So you are literally like a patch quilt is your heart. And that's where you call home everywhere you've ever been, the places you love, the places you disliked, the friends that mean the most to you. You know, their culture became a part of your culture and you learn phrases and words and food and you develop a deep appreciation for things that you would not have experienced otherwise, but for that lifestyle.
Yeah. Wow. This is really fascinating. So tell us a little bit about the story that we're going to experience when we read your book.
Yes, so I Move a Lot and That's Okay is loosely on my own life, but I did change a few things to protect the innocent, if you will. Uh-huh. And it's about a story of a girl named Grace leaving Columbus, Georgia in the United States, and her first big move across the world to Italy, to Naples, Italy. And that did happen, but we were in Warner Robins, Georgia, as opposed to Columbus, Georgia. So I just changed a little bit of that. Moving all the way across the world, learning a new language, new foods, new people, new environment, new school, new everything, leaving everything you've ever known, loved, and experienced in another world and moving and only being referred to a lot of times as a military kid, being referred to as American only. And a lot of the pieces that somebody may hold dear to their identity, it's different for you when you're living in a foreign country. You're there your job is to fit in, to ease the route of the soldier because you have to have a good experience for them to continue to have a good experience. So she learns a new language. She loses her trusted Cody on this side over here, her dinosaur. She loses him on the plane and he's like an emotional support to her. Like, where did he go? What happened to him? She's got to learn how to pack up her house, how to realize that things that she loves may get lost or broken in the moving process because that is quite popular. She's got to make a new friend, but still not feel like she's cheating on her old friends in the country that she left behind. And she's got to fully adjust. I thought it was really timely to write this in the middle of the pandemic because guess what? Everybody's world was upside down, and those who had not experienced loss and travel and just an uproar of transition now we're thrown into a world that was typical for military families. Like you're moving a lot. You're experiencing new language. Everything turns upside down frequently for you. And then they have this cycle of reintegration where psychological term where everything changes. And then you've got to learn how to evolve again because change is constant. Change is norm and flexible. And so that is the story. She is learning to navigate all of the pieces of a new world and to figure out it's okay. So throughout the book, you will see the phrase, and that's okay, or and that's not okay. And it's really showing the highs and lows of her emotional journey of a child at 7 years old. We typically are allowing things to happen to kids. We typically don't involve them in the process. So the spouse, which is the mom, she's not the service member, is intentional to involve her in, hey, write your name on your boxes. Mm-hmm. Let's go look at a house. I hear they have soccer. I know you love soccer. Let's explore what life will look like on the other side to really mitigate and minimize the fear that we have. And then there's this really pivotal moment on the plane where she says, I'm scared. And mom says, I'm scared too. Just kind of really normalizing for children that parents are experiencing a lot, that they have a lot of the same feelings and that sometimes it's not okay. Sometimes we all feel fearful, but on the end, there's going to be a reward for us. So everything is phrased as an adventure.
Wow. You know, mentioning that things get broken and lost in the move, I was not aware until till recently how chaotic the moves that military families make can be. My daughter and her fiance went to Germany to visit with one of their friends, and one of the friends is in the service, and they will be in the process of moving back to the United States, to a base in the United States. However, the folks who do the moving came to get the furniture and the things 90 days before they were actually moving. And so instead of having to wait for stuff to get here, like if you lose your luggage on the airplane, it's like, oh, you're taking our stuff before we leave. And that's it's comical, but it's really crazy. It's the sacrifices that our military families are making are incredible.
Yeah, so the moving process itself, it's kind of like great highs and lows. They call it PCS, a permanent change of station. And so when the movers are coming and packing your things, you're like, oh my gosh, I hope this makes it. I hope this makes it in one piece. I hope it doesn't break. And there are some excellent moving companies, but there are those that allow stuff to fall through the cracks. And there are huge Facebook groups about when things are lost and broken in transition. Some of the stuff is like, people will complain that trash is typically packed. Like, why would somebody choose to, I mean, it happens. Like, ask anybody, you know, the trash could be packed, or something that's valuable not wrapped appropriately. And so you typically have to constantly watch and talk to, and that is a process in itself, the moving. Being there, making sure the boxes are packed up, keeping inventory of different rooms. And then you have a list of the inventory, and you have to assign a value to some things. But I like to say some things are priceless. Like that one crystal figurine your grandmother might have given you who's passed on. I couldn't put a price to that. So if it was lost or broken or stolen, I'm heartbroken. But there's a process to, to get the money, if you will, related to something that could be broken. But then there's a whole appeal back and forth. So it's a lot of stuff. And then kids, things like stuff that should have been in one box ends up somewhere else, or you may end up with someone's items that wasn't even a part of your move. There are huge groups online saying, hey, I'm looking for my father's World War II memorabilia. It never made it years ago. And then somebody else may find it in their box and ship it back. So it creates some connections and some type of confusion that just binds people that you wouldn't even imagine based off of a move 90 days before, or sometimes things get there much earlier than you do, and sometimes they don't. And then you may have to go pick up your car on a boat. So that's part of the story as well. The family goes down to the dock, and Grace, the main character, can see her car arrive on a boat. Until then, you have no car. So how do you get around? Before rideshare, you took public transit. You walked. You met people so you could get a ride somewhere, because everybody couldn't rent a car or didn't have the means to do that.
Right. Obviously, this is a book that kids who are in the military, it would be a great thing to have in those families' homes, so the kids can see themselves represented positively in the pages of books. But I think it is equally important for every family to be talking a little bit about what the men and women who do so much for our country are experiencing, so that we can have empathy for them, so that because not every kid in the military goes to a military-based school. Oftentimes they are going to a school in a community. And I think it's important for all of us to understand, and especially for our kids to understand the sacrifices that are being made on our behalf.
That's so true. A lot of times, so you have friends that are outside the base walls, if you will, and it's a very separate community. So people don't know. They assume everybody is an armed soldier in the military. They don't know that you can have any job in the service you can have outside the service. That is, people go, what? You could be a firefighter. You can be a chaplain. You can do a lot of things, any job. My dad worked in telecommunications, so he was a computer guy. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks you're on the front line with a weapon. And yes, that is part of your first job, is the defense, but your actual job day to day could be very different. So that's really important to know. I like to provide empathy for the families, because people are typically only acknowledging us, seeing us during Veterans Day or the dreaded Memorial Day, which is actually, I like to say that you do not wish people happy Memorial Day. It is about the remembrance of fallen soldiers. So sometimes people think it's, hey, it's happy. It's really not. It's a sad day for many people. So, just if you've never heard that, don't wish people happy Memorial Day, not in the service. It's just a lot of highs and lows. And I said, I want to help people understand what life looks like inside the base. And then for those children, when I go to schools and I talk, I say, I'm just like you. And they go, oh, well, how many times did you move? And I tell them, like, whoa. And they instantly smile, and they connect, and they go, wow. So I let them know by second grade, I'd already moved 3 times. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd already attended my second school by first grade. And they're like, oh, and then they connect and they go, well, where were you born? I said, I was born in California, but we shipped right back out to England afterwards. They're like, yeah, I get it. And so just creating those beautiful connections in and out the base, to me, it's so nice, because a child's world should be filled with imagination, and they should see other experiences as beautiful and different, not, okay, it's scary, they should stay over here, we should stay over there. I like to create that curiosity to build new friendships.
Yeah. So what are some of the benefits of that you experienced as someone who, I think it was 13 different schools in your life? I think a lot of people would sit there and be horrified, like, oh, what can I do?
It wasn't that bad, we tell you.
Okay. I have a distinct memory of going, I was one of those kids who grew up in the neighborhood. My entire family lived within a square mile of,
wow.
And that both sides of the family. I went to kindergarten through 8th grade with the same group of kids. And then I went to a private school in a different city. I had to take the public transportation to it in high school. And I remember being there and the first day going, how do I make friends? I've never made I've had lots of friends. I never had to make them because they were just there. You had the complete opposite experience. What are the benefits and what are the drawbacks from how you lived?
Yeah, you're kind of always the new kid, right? Especially if you have to move again. And so that's book number 2, I Miss My Friend and That's Okay, where the main character is in between two worlds. My old school, where I knew and I loved everybody, and the new place, like you're saying, that anxiety of how do I make new friends? And so it talks about that, building new friendships, because it is hard to make new friends, but there is something called a student sponsor, where, and I did this at several schools, where you are the person to befriend the new kid. They get to eat lunch with you. You're typically in some of your classes, and you're probably on the same bus route. So they try to connect you with someone who kind of just like you, not looks and feels or anything, just kind of the same schedule, same spirit, same feel, some of the interests. And that becomes your first friend. So you can sit with me at lunch and my friends. Yeah, I'll show you around the school. I'll kind of show you around what's cool, what's not cool, you know, in a kid's eyes. And until you make your own set of friends. And so that does help to reduce the anxiety, to help them make some friends initially. And so that's in book number 2. She gets a new friend, Francesca, who kind of shows her the ropes of this new place, helps her learn some popular phrases in Italian, because what do? You're trying to, you know, you're a kid, so you're trying to ask for help, but you don't really want to ask for help. What does that look like to make your own friends on your own terms? And it's hard. I won't lie, it's hard. But I'll say some of the benefits, learning several languages. Like most people don't realize, I speak some pretty good Turkish. And so I will find a local Turkish spot and I'll walk in, nasılsınız çok güzel abi. And I'm walking, they're like, where did you learn Turkish? And I was like, in Turkey. And they go, huh? So I surprised my husband with that recently. We went somewhere to eat and I found a local Turkish spot. We walked in and I started speaking in Turkish. He said, I didn't know you spoke Turkish. You never told me, as you never asked me. So you have these really, really fun superpowers, I want to say, that people don't know about you. You may speak several aspects of different languages. You may fit in with different cultures. There are some foods and smells and things that just bring back amazing memories and stories that people go, you did what? Wait, you actually learned to ski in Germany? Yeah, they're like, oh, I didn't know you lived in Germany. I was like, I actually finished high school there. And they go, huh? I didn't know that about you. I said, well, you never asked me. And so you have these, it's like a patchwork blanket of these memories and feels and smells and some of the best things that have happened to you across the globe that have built long lasting friendships. I can pretty much go anywhere and feel like I know somebody there, or I know how to get around and just, you know, just live among the people and enjoy. And you lose that apprehension as you get older of new experiences. You say, you know what, this is a new adventure and I'm just going to dive in.
That's wonderful. Boy, I can imagine the look on your husband's face when you ordered in Turkish. That must
he was going, what? Or I could speak some Italian, some German, some French, some Mandarin, and people go, how? Because people like to place you in the box of what they have experienced, positive or negative, from somebody that looks like you. Could be gender, race, culture, whatever. They want to place you in that box. And when you kind of blow up the box, for a lack of a better word, people go, wait a minute. Now I'll let people know, hey, just because someone looks a certain way does not mean your experience of that type of person actually is the truth. And so it just opens the door for so many wonderful conversations if they are open and curious to learning about you.
You know, I think that this is a conversation that we should be having with our kids, is to, you know, encourage them. Don't be putting people in boxes. Be curious. Ask them what their story is so you can get to know them and not just make assumptions.
Yeah, and I think children, they are curious. They get it. They're like, oh, your hair looks different. Your skin looks different. Your nails. And they will just walk up and start talking to you, which is great. They'll see somebody in a wheelchair and they'll walk up and just talk and ask questions, which is the curiosity that can be satisfaction towards the end. But as adults, we go, oh, wait a minute. They don't look like me. They don't sound like me. They don't wear glasses like I do. Oh, they eat different food. Let me stay over here. And I go, wait, you're different? Tell me a little bit more about why you like that. Like, that's a cool style and look and feel. I'd love to learn more. And so if we could just teach adults to keep that curiosity they had as a child, perhaps we would all get along a little bit better. Aside from our differences, we would find something in common and say that difference is special and cool. And if we only connect on one thing, that's enough for me, because we don't have to agree politically, religiously, or any of those things. But we both like this particular dish, and we could talk about that all day and leave everything else on the side.
Boy, how much do we need that attitude today?
We really do. Because I let people know I have friends across all spectrums, right? Mm-hmm. That think, believe, feel differently than me. That's fine. But we have certain things that we connected on, certain memories and food and culture and language, and we can just keep that. Everything else we can check at the door, and you can hold those deep beliefs when you walk away. But we can find something to connect on. And I believe like the world really needs that nowadays, especially in the United States. We need something where we say, you know what? There's one or two things that we both go, you know what? That's cool. And let's just focus on that. Yeah. Let's leave everything else off.
Yeah. I love that. Hey, you mentioned you lived in Italy, you lived in England, in the different places in the United States. Where was the favorite place that you lived?
Turkey. Turkey was my favorite place. And every time I go to a school, it never fails. A student asks me, especially a school that's not connected to the military, they'll say, do they eat turkey in Turkey? It's always a kid that asks that. So I'll say, you know what? Let me just say it before what you're thinking. And I'll say, they don't eat turkey in Turkey. They go, oh, you know, it's like it sucks the air out of the room for elementary, especially second grade really likes this question. Mm-hmm. And I'll let them know, but the people are different and beautiful, and they see you and it's a curiosity, and they want to understand more about the ice cream you eat because their ice cream is different. And that's how I made friends literally in Turkey. I was eating an ice cream and somebody else was eating ice cream and walking down the street, and I saw him, and his name is Fatih. And just like that, we connected. Couldn't speak each other's language, but I was sitting there going, it looks like ice cream. It looks like ice cream. And our moms met, and we realized we lived in the building next door to each other and became friends. And we would have ice cream together and walk to the store that was about 2 blocks away once a week together. And I learned Turkish. He learned some English. And just like that, we became friends.
That's one. I had a wonderful friendship with somebody that didn't speak English, and I didn't speak their language. And it was as an adult, and we would oftentimes have lunch together, and it was a wonderful friendship. And what a neat thing! What a neat thing to encourage our kids to do, is to become friends with someone that you can't communicate with initially.
Yeah, and then it forces you to learn another language. So I learned his language, he learned mine, and then realized that his older sister and my older brother were friends, and just like that, and the moms connect because they're moms.
Yeah.
You know, and then you hear a kid outside yelling, Mom, you know, Anne in Turkish, because they fell and they hurt their knee, and you see all the moms rush outside, right? And then you realize, oh, this mom and that mom, and they connected just like that. Something beautiful. So simple yet so powerful. We need connection nowadays. We really, really do.
We certainly do. We hear about kids suffering from anxiety, and of course all the strife that we hear about on the news and on social media. We do need connection and community. And you know what else we need? We need to know where we can go to find out more about I Move a Lot, and that's okay.
Yes. So we are evolving. So now we have 3 books in the series. Kindergarten kept saying, oh my gosh, Cody the dinosaur got lost. when is he going to come back? Like they were deeply invested in that. So book number 3 came out, I'll Find You, and That's Okay. He wakes up, if you will, on the plane and finds his way back to her. Oh. It's an interesting story. They said he needs to breathe fire. He needs to have a sword. I was like, okay. So he made his way. Book number 4 is coming, and you can go under booksformilitaryfamilies.com. Awesome. Booksformilitaryfamilies.com. I'm on Amazon and Target and all the other places, but I say reach out, connect with me. I'd love to come to your school in person or virtually and have some great discussion about how we can connect across cultures, how we can learn more and empathize with someone from a different lived experience.
Yeah. And I'm just hoping you write that story about you and the ice cream and the friendship. I hope that becomes a book too.
Yes, that's part 5 in the series.
Awesome. We've had a great time speaking to the author of so many wonderful children's books. Our guest has been Shermaine Perry-Knights. Shermaine, thank you so very much, not only for being with us today, but for all that your family does for our country.
And thank you for doing this, creating this space with this podcast. You may not realize it. Listening in is really important. So subscribe, like, follow, share it with someone else. These moments right here help to build us. We learn to play, we listen to play, and we grow. So please tune into the podcast if nothing else.
Are you looking for a creative way to bond with your kids? Let me tell you all about Drawing with Your Kids, the ultimate destination for artistic adventures. Join us as we dive into the wonderful world of children's books with renowned illustrators guiding you step by step. From beloved characters to whimsical scenes, unleash your imagination and create cherished memories together. Whether you're a seasoned artist or just picking up a pencil, there's something for everyone at Drawing with Your Kids. Please visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Drawing with Your Kids link at the top of the page and let the creativity flow. Drawing with Your Kids, where every stroke brings stories to life. Join us right now from the United Kingdom, where it is very pleasant, I'm told. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new middle grade novel. It's called Freedom Quest. It is part of her Rescue Quest series. Please welcome to the show, Michelle Reeves. Hey, Michelle, how are you?
Hey, Dad, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Michelle and I were just having a lovely conversation. Michelle is somewhat of a globetrotter. She's lived in China and the UK and visited Boston. And is that where some of the idea for this series came from? Is it the quest that you've taken in your life?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I never really thought of it that way, but definitely love traveling, love adventure. And I think it's something that really resonates with kids too, because, you know, kids really love, you know, the whole kind of mystery and excitement of quests and adventure. And I certainly remember when I was a child, I loved those kind of stories. So being able to write stories with that kind of experience, particularly for reluctant readers, is what I thought would be a great way to go.
Yeah. Now, as I understand that this series is set in the world of Minecraft.
That's right. So it's partly in Minecraft and partly in the real world. And the reason that I did that is because I really struggled with my son when he was younger, getting him to read. He was a really reluctant reader. And I think that's because he mainly couldn't find stories that really interested him. He was a big fan of gaming, loves Minecraft, still does today. And so I thought, well, why don't I try and write a story for him, specifically for him, that's set in a world that he already knows and loves. So really the whole project just started as writing a story for him. And it's grown way beyond that now into what will be a 3-book series that is available worldwide.
Now, we've had a number of authors on who have written books in the Minecraft universe, some of them official, some of them unofficial. I'm just starting to understand the world of Dungeons and Dragons a little bit because we have a Dungeons and Dragons inspired podcast as part of our podcast family. It's called Guardians of the Game. Even though these authors in the past have told me about Minecraft, I'm still clueless. So could you help us because I think the hardest thing for me to wrap my head around is that it's a universe that doesn't exist until the player creates it.
Well, that's partly true. Effectively, what you do is you join what's called a map. And you can just imagine it being an environment with lots of different zones in it. So there'll be maybe a desert zone, or there might be a swamp zone, and there'll be a plains zone with lots of grass and trees. So you kind of get dropped into one of these worlds, and then you can just go and explore. And really, you create the story yourself while you are in Minecraft. And I think that's why Minecraft lends itself so well to authors writing stories about it, because when people are playing in Minecraft, whatever their age, because I play with my son and my daughter, we have lots of fun in Minecraft, you're really creating a story yourself while you're playing. And there's lots of different modes. So you can play in creative, which is completely safe as for a character. You can go ahead and build lots of stuff. You don't have to go foraging for all the different elements you need. Everything's available to you for free. Or you can up your game a bit and play in survival, and that's where you have to actually mine for the things you want. So say you want to build a house made of wooden blocks. If you're in creative mode, all those wooden blocks will be available to you for free in your little inventory that pops up. In survival, you have to go and actually cut down trees to get those blocks. So it's also a way of teaching kids about resources and how you need to manage those resources. Whereas in creative mode, you're really just having fun. You can go crazy. You can build all sorts of amazing structures. So it's really fostering creativity. And I know that there's academic versions of Minecraft now that are actually being used in schools so that teachers can allow children to experience learning in an environment that they know and love, which is great, because I think one of the things I do believe is that as parents, and obviously I'm a parent too, we tend to be a bit nervous about the amount of time that our kids spend online. Let's be honest. Mm-hmm. We would rather they didn't spend their whole time sitting and looking at a computer. So we can get into a bit of a either or mentality where we're like, oh, I really don't want them to be gaming. I want them to be doing reading, or I want them to be writing instead. But I think really what I wanted to explore is whether we can take away that either or and combine the two together to foster creativity. So gaming maybe doesn't need to be seen so much as a baddie, mm-hmm. but if we kind of embrace it and say, right, how can we actually bring this into our children's learning environment, then we're going to be doing that collaboratively with our kids. So, for example, instead of having a constant battle, could you maybe do create a story? So they're playing in Minecraft and they create a story while they're playing. Maybe we can encourage them to actually write that story down, and then they can share it with some of their friends. Or maybe they can explore digital art. Maybe they could do some research into architecture and then see if they can recreate those builds in Minecraft. So it's a way of just allowing us to embrace a world that they're going to be using anyway and bring learning into that.
Well, I am certainly a proponent of using the technology that we have to help our kids, especially get kids who may not be excited about learning and turn them into excited learners and excited readers. I've said for a long time, I started the Reading with Your Kids podcast because I know the relationship I have with my now adult kids was built on a foundation of reading, and our reading together turned into cooking together, turned into throwing the ball around together, exploring together, all those other kind of things. So I'm all for that. And if you can find a way, I've talked to authors here, especially of historical fiction and STEM books. It seems like somebody at some point in education said, okay, we're going to do all we can to take subjects like STEM and history and make it as boring as possible. So that it's more of a torture and an ordeal for a kid to get through, as opposed to getting them excited about it.
Yeah, exactly. And, there's that phrase, isn't there? You can drag a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I think it's the same with kids and reading. You can drag them to a book, but unless they really feel absorbed in the story, until the characters are relevant to them, they're not really going to enjoy it. And they're going to see reading as a chore. And really, we want to try and foster reading to be a lifelong, enjoyable thing that they can do. And the only way we can do that is by creating relevant stories, relevant characters, making it interesting and exciting for them. And so, I really respect the Minecraft universe and Mojang and Microsoft for allowing authors like me to write stories and publish stories set in the Minecraft universe, because I think they also understand that, that's a way that we can bring people not only to the game, but, expanding that universe out into children's own worlds.
Yeah. So let's talk about the stories and the quest in your book.
Yeah, so the Rescue Quest series is going to be a 3-part series. So part 1 is called Rescue Quest, part 2 is called Freedom Quest, and we have 3 characters. So there's Tom and his friends Lev and Anna. And Tom is the smallest boy in his year, and he really struggles with that because the school bully called Hunter Graham really has it out for him. And so this is one of the examples of bringing, a relevant school-based issue into the books, because, a lot of us have, and I myself included, have, struggled with bullying. We have to overcome challenges. So this very much is part of a Rescue Quest. Book 1, Tom is really challenged by the bully that he deals with at school. So that is in his offline environment. So he and his friends, Lev and Anna, play in the Minecraft world to escape those real world challenges. But unfortunately, one day when Tom is playing Minecraft with his little sister Alice, who he loves to play with, Alice gets sucked into the game. And Tom has to decide if he's going to follow her into the game to rescue her, and which he actually does. And then he goes on a whole adventure inside the game, meeting characters in order to battle the bully inside the game. So there's a real sort of character inside the game that is trying to take over Minecraft. So he has to work with others, he has to forge alliances, he has to overcome his own insecurities in order to be able to try and win that battle. So that's the first book. And we meet the characters again in book 2. And in book 2, the main character is actually Tom's friend Lev. And this one's called Freedom Quest because this time it's Lev that disappears into the game and Tom and Anna have to go in after him. So now all 3 of our friends are all on a quest trying to find a very powerful, ancient artifact within Minecraft that will enable them to rescue the whole world from this bully who is back in book 2. And so they travel through all the different Minecraft biomes, so we get to see all the different areas within Minecraft. And there are also builds within the game that children can do, and I've brought a couple of those builds into the book. And literally just last week, my son actually recreated one of those builds on my YouTube channel, which was a lot of fun. So he actually took one of the builds from the story, which is an automatic arrow dispenser, which kids can follow along and they can build that themselves in Minecraft after having read about it in the book. So it's a lot of fun to be able to combine that online and offline world.
Wow, that sounds really cool. And I love it. I am imagining my son back when he was 8, 9, 10 years old, and boy, he would have loved this. He would have loved experiencing this with me and my wife and his sister, I think.
Yeah, it's really for, I say it's for ages 7 to 12, but for anyone that's young at heart, because I've had quite a lot of adult readers who've really enjoyed reading it with their kids. And at the beginning of the first book, I've explained a bit about what Minecraft is. And some people have actually said to me that it's brought them closer with their kids because, they knew their kids were playing Minecraft, but they didn't really understand it. But by reading the book with their children alongside them, there are areas maybe they're not so sure about, and their kids have explained to them what that means. And it's brought them closer together because the kids are enabled to share their own world with their parents, which I think is a lovely thing, to empower kids to have that experience and to be able to share information that they might not otherwise do.
Yeah. So neat. Now, I'm just curious. This doesn't relate to your book, but it does relate to Minecraft and my understanding of it. Is this one of the games, one of the things we've talked about here on the podcast is helping our kids be online in a safe way. Are kids just playing this game by themselves, or are they able to interact with strangers out there in the universe?
So there's different modes. You can 100% play it on your own with nobody else in the environment with you, so it's very safe. You can also create a closed world that you can play with your family. So if I'm playing with my son on our PlayStation, then we can both be in the same world together, and we can build together and we can play together, which is lots of fun. And then when kids start to get older, you can actually switch on the element to be able to allow them to play online. And that's where you can have other people join. And they, for example, can create a world, a map, if you like, that their friends could join in. Even if they're not in the same house with them or not on the same network, then they can play together. And then the next step beyond that is then to allow a complete online environment where strangers could play. But you can very much build up to that as they get older, more experienced, and you can supervise that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I just love the fact that we have this technology. I'm sitting here in Boston. You're sitting in Cambridge in the UK. Somehow there's a cable that goes underneath the water, and we are able to actually see each other, look into each other's homes, and speak with each other in real time. It's just amazing. But it also, for our kids, it presents some things that we need to be aware of. We need to help our kids be aware of them so we can keep them safe.
Absolutely, 100%. And that has been a real worry to me, actually. But I think, you know, the fact is that distractions, you know, are high, literacy rates are dropping, and that is a concern. You know, I shared with you, there was a survey done in the UK of 70,000 pupils by the National Literacy Trust that showed a 26% decrease in the number of children reading daily in their free time. And I think that's because they choose to do other things. They choose to game, they choose to play online. And that is where we worry about it. But the fact is that the internet isn't going away. You know, the genie is well and truly out of the bottle. And our children are going to grow up in a world where their online life is as important as their offline life. And, you know, that's just, you know, it's a realism. It's what's going to happen. So I think rather than, like I said before, rather than it become a constant battle between a parent and a child, it's how we can embrace their world and allow it to bring us closer together so that, you know, we have that trust. They're able to then tell us if there are maybe things that happen that they make them feel uncomfortable. But they're only going to do that if we're part of that world and if we can understand that. So I think, you know, as hard, as challenging as it can be, because we're really busy as parents, you know, taking some of that time to understand the online world that our kids are interested in and playing with them, you know, learning with them, allows us to maybe open up some of those challenging conversations.
Yeah. One of the things that's very obvious to me, just like when we're reading about different characters and different situations in books, this world and playing in the world with your kids allows your kids and you to strategize. And how would you deal with a bully like Hunter if you were Tom? How do you think Tom can do it? It's a lot more effective than sitting down and saying, okay, son, we're going to have a talk about bullying, and because that's just useless. Don't even waste your time doing it. However, if there's a story that you're talking about and you're talking about other characters and you're asking your kids, what do you think Tom should do? What do you think Lev should do? How can we deal with this? That is a much more effective, going to be much more open to making suggestions and thinking about different things, and then hopefully applying it in their own lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I think there are a lot of challenges that our kids go through at school. And modeling the way, as you say, strategizing, experiencing the kind of things that characters go through allows children to almost experience those things secondhand. So even if they've not gone through it themselves, we know that when we read books, it lights up areas of our brain that kind of make us feel like we are actually doing those things, that we are part of that world, that we're experiencing those different challenges. So it allows kids to kind of explore things that might be, more challenging than they can maybe cope with. And, so that was really important to me to bring some of those real world challenges into the books. I think kids are able to deal with more than we think they can. And often I think, allowing them to ask ethical questions, explore, why might a bully be acting that way? What is going on in their world? And Tom does start to do some of that. His grandmother is in the first book, and she's a very wise and wonderful woman. I love grandparents. It was really important to me to have a grandparent in the book. And Tom's parents are maybe not as useful as they could be, but his grandmother is wonderful. And she does help him to overcome and help him explore some of his challenges, and questions him and raises some of these questions. Why do bullies behave that way? And in the first book, Tom just doesn't get it, but that continues into the second book, and children can see in the second book that there is actually something going on with Hunter that Tom doesn't realize until later on, and it changes his whole perspective about why people behave the way they do. So that was really important to me. And Lev, at the same time, Lev has his own challenges. We don't know what's going on in other people's worlds, and I think it's important for kids to start thinking about that, especially when, kids may behave in a certain way at school and we don't understand why. So in the second book, Lev is challenged by the fact that his grandfather has sadly passed away, and he's had to move from the country to the city, and that's kind of challenged him, and he has to go through a journey himself within the story of Freedom Quest, and how he copes with that and how that affects him, and how he overcomes that. So the stories aren't meant to be sad, they're not meant to be too scary. They're meant to be exciting and fun, but it's just bringing in some of those real world experiences to allow kids to experience, how the characters find courage, how they help each other, how they forge friendships, how they fall apart and then rebuild themselves. Those are things that I think can be added to adventure, just to kind of, allow kids to explore new scenarios that they maybe wouldn't do otherwise.
You mentioned something that I think is very, very important. It allows kids to fall apart and then rebuild themselves. And one of the things we've talked about here a lot is just helping our kids become more resilient and understand that if they have a fall, if they make a mistake, if they have a failure, it's not the end of the world. In fact, it could be a stepping stone into the next success.
Yeah, absolutely. And that definitely happens in the second book. There are some real friendship challenges. There are also some really fun moments that I love. I've introduced some new sidekick characters in book 2, which was such fun to do, because one of the great things about Minecraft is there are lots of animals in the world that you can befriend. So there's Tom's sidekick is a wolf, and Lev has a little sidekick who is a dragon, because there are dragons in Minecraft. But also I did a school visit, and I ran a competition for the children at the school to create a character. This was just after book 1 had been published, that I would put into book 2. And a fantastic pupil, a young lady called Madeline, created a fox called a fire fox, who could create fire and also frost. And that character she called Flame. And I thought this character was going to be a very small part of Freedom Quest. But as I was writing the story, and as often the case, when you're writing, it's a wonderful experience. Your characters start to take over. And Flame ended up having a much bigger part to play in Freedom Quest than I expected her to. And it was such a wonderful thing to be able to to bring in a character that a child had actually created, and for her to see that character come to life inside the book. So I think by knowing that, by knowing that there are kids creating characters, that it really shows, other children that this is completely open to them. Your imagination is totally unbounded, and you're able to explore worlds that you can only dream of, but you can do all that inside your own imagination. And then why not write those stories down and share them with others? Because, if they can do that, then, really they can do anything.
Yeah, I love it. Have you started work on book 3 yet?
I have started planning out book 3. No spoilers here, I'm afraid, Ded. But it is going to be a very similar quest. There's still going to be a quest. And the 3 main characters, Tom, Lev, and Anna, are still going to be in it. But there is a little teaser at the end of Freedom Quest for what might happen next. Because one of the characters who is within Minecraft appears in Tom's living room. And I'm not going to say any more, but it could be very interesting.
Now, I have to ask, you created the series or the initial story for your son to help him get excited about reading. Did it work?
I think hopefully it did. We read the first book together, which was great. And it's really been a family project because my daughter adores reading, as I do. And she got her Word Millionaire badge at school, a few years ago. And she's been fantastic in helping me to plan out the books. But she also is my alpha reader. So before my book goes to my beta readers, who are all children, all middle grade children, or before it goes to my editor, my daughter reads it. And so she is my alpha reader, and she goes through and she decides if there's anything in the book that doesn't quite work, or she gives me ideas, or we brainstorm together. So it's very much a family project. And my son, he is my Minecraft consultant. So he will, when we're going through the story together, he will tell me whether there's, you just can't do that in Minecraft, Mum, or that's not how you build that, or you can't make a potion that way, or whatever it might be. He really kind of sense checks it for me. And I think, it's been a fun process for both my children to see how books get made. Because as a self-published author, I do all of it myself. So them being able to see all the different elements from the first draft that you write, which is always rubbish. Make that really, really clear to everyone out there. Your first draft is always going to be rubbish. And then you have to go back and rewrite it. And you're going to be doing that, with work that you do your whole life. So yes, it definitely got him interested in reading. He's now doing a lot more reading, which is fantastic. But still, he's still gaming. We still game together. It hasn't, reading hasn't taken over gaming, and I wouldn't expect it to. But hopefully it's something we can do in parallel, side by side.
Awesome. Michelle, where can we go to find out more about Freedom Quest and the Rescue Quest series, and also find out more about you?
Thank you so much. So, you can find everything at my website, which is michellereeveswrites.com. But I've also just started doing a read-along on my YouTube channel, which is also at Michelle Reeves Writes on YouTube. And I've read the first 6 chapters of Rescue Quest. So anyone can just listen along for free. So the first video's already just gone out with the first 3 chapters, and I'll be launching the second lot of chapters pretty soon. So, it's a way for anyone to get introduced to the story.
Wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the author of Freedom Quest. It is the second book in the Rescue Quest middle grade series from our guest, Michelle Reeves. Michelle, thanks so much for being with us.
It has been my pleasure. Thank you so much, Ed.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids, and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. We'd love for you to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, and at Jedley Magic on X. We have a great YouTube channel, youtube.com/Reading With Your Kids. That's where you'll find all of our Drawing With Your Kids videos and many, many episodes of the podcast. Hey, we'd also love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. You can Check out our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame and also send us a message. There's a contact button up at the top of the page. Let us know what you love about the show. Let us know what we could be doing better. And let us know who you would like to hear in a future episode. And if you are an author, please be sure to click the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page to find out how you can be a guest here on Reading with Your Kids. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands and thousands of kidlit fans all around the world about your fantastic children's book. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Shermaine Perry-Knights. Please be sure to check out I Move a Lot, and That's Okay. Also want to thank Michelle Reeves. Be sure to check out Freedom Quest. I want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place. And you do that every time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.